Alright, so I'm going to try and explain what's going on. So I've been posting some videos about various things that I've been building in my shop, and one of those things is a wax injection machine. It's a modified paint pot that I have uh, changed so that it will also melt wax. I can still operate it under pressure, and I can use that to inject wax into molds that I use in lost wax casting. So I have a buddy that says, you know, why buy it for $300 when you can build it for $500? And so he's certainly true and correct about that, because I've probably got, you know, not 500, but for what would be about $1,000 machine, I've probably got, you know, $250, $300 wrapped up into it. Some important differences between this machine, though, and the ones that you would buy are things that I'll talk about right now. So the first thing is that this not only gives me the opportunity to change the air pressure inside the tank and is able to be regulated between fairly narrow margins of 3 to 60 psi really accurately, but it also has a working pressure gauge. And so that's important, because as we relieve pressure from the tank, it's going to you know, the pressure inside the tank is going to drop, and so if it drops below a certain point, it won't allow the wax to flow within the machine. Another important difference is the fact that those machines don't really come with thermostats, so you don't know what the working temperature of the wax is, and so you're forced to use just a regular thermometer. And so what I've done is I've actually installed a couple of different thermocouples. And so one actually goes down way down inside the tank, and you can measure the temperature of the wax itself in the pot. But another important point to measure temperature is going to be right here at the nozzle. If there's a big difference between the pot pressure, or the well, and the nozzle temperature rather, then the wax will cool here in the nozzle, and it'll just gum things up, and it won't flow properly into the molds. And so you can see that these thermocouple wires come out the top, and they go over here to my gauge. And currently I just put the lid on this thing. You'll see that the well pressure in this pot, or the well temperature rather, is about 151 degrees, but the nozzle temperature is only about 80 some degrees. And so what'll happen is that wax will set up before it ever has a chance to get into the mold. So other important aspects, you'll notice there's a valve here on the side. Not only can I use this machine for wax injection, but it can also be used as a vacuum chamber, and that's why you'll see that this gauge goes into negative pressure, or vacuum, as well as positive pressure. And so it's essentially a triple purpose machine, one that will allow me to inject hot wax into molds to make prototypes where I can use for lost wax casting. I can use it as a vacuum chamber to degas silicone molds, and then I can use it as a pressure chamber if I want to do pressure stabilized or density stabilized materials. Like if you take an old piece of driftwood that tends to want to fall apart, you can actually put this stuff called cactus juice into this pot. You bring it up under vacuum, and it'll suck all the air out of the wood, and then when you introduce pressure, it will actually force that cactus juice into the wood. Then you can bake it and stabilize it. So anyway, hopefully this thing actually gets up to temperature. We'll also have a little bit of video of me injection for the first time into a mold.